She thought he was just a kind biker who fixed her car in the desert. 3 years later, she walked past a movie poster, and her heart stopped. The stranger who changed her life was Keanu Reeves. The Arizona sun felt like fire on Maya's skin. Her old Honda coughed one last time and died right there on Route 66. Maya hit the steering wheel hard. "Please, not today," she screamed at the dashboard. But the car didn't care. It was dead. Maya was a waitress at Bobby's Diner in Kingman, a small town nobody had heard of. She had exactly 1 hour for her lunch break. Now she was stuck in the middle of the desert with no cell phone signal and no idea what to do. She stepped out of the car and looked around. Empty road. Empty desert. Nothing but sand and rocks for miles. The nearest gas station was 5 miles behind her. Maya felt tears burning her eyes, but she refused to cry. Her father died 8 months ago. He always fixed everything. Her car, her problems, her broken heart. Now he was gone and she felt lost. She kicked the tire and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through her toe. "Great," she muttered. "Just perfect." Then she heard something. A low rumble in the distance. Getting louder. A motorcycle appeared on the horizon. Black and chrome, cutting through the heat waves like a shark through water. Maya's first thought was to be afraid. A woman alone on an empty highway. But something told her to stay calm. The rider slowed down and stopped next to her car. He was tall, wearing a black leather jacket despite the heat. Dark jeans. Boots. When he took off his helmet, Maya saw a man probably in his 50s with kind brown eyes and dark hair going gray at the edges. "Car trouble?" he asked. His voice was gentle. "Yeah," Maya said, feeling stupid. "It just stopped. I don't know why. Want me to take a look?" Maya hesitated for just a second. Her mother's voice in her head. Never trust strangers. But something about this man felt safe. "Yes, please," she said. "I'd really appreciate it." The stranger smiled. "No problem. Pop the hood." Maya reached inside and pulled the lever. The hood clicked open with a rusty sound. The man walked to the front of the car and bent over the engine. He moved like someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Checking wires, touching caps, looking at things Maya didn't even have names for. "When did you last change your oil?" he asked, not looking up. Maya felt her face get hot with embarrassment. I'm honestly not sure." He didn't laugh at her or make her feel dumb. He just nodded. "Well, there's your first problem. You're bone dry here. Might have done some damage, but let me check a few more things." Maya stood in the tiny shadow of her car door, watching him work. He pulled tools from a bag on his motorcycle like a doctor pulling instruments from a medical kit. "I'm Maya, by the way," she said after a few minutes of silence. "Nice to meet you, Maya," he replied, still focused on the engine. "I'm John. Thanks for stopping, John. Most people would have just driven past." He looked up at her then, really looked at her, and smiled. "I don't think I could live with myself if I did that." 20 minutes passed. John worked steadily, muttering to himself occasionally. Maya offered him water from her bottle. He took it gratefully and drank half of it in one long gulp. "Hot day for a motorcycle ride," Maya said. "Hot day for a breakdown," John replied with a grin. Finally, he stood up and wiped his hands on a rag. Black grease covered his fingers. "Okay, here's the situation," he said. "Your radiator hose is cracked. That's why you overheated. I can patch it enough to get you back to town, but you need to get it properly fixed as soon as possible. And you need an oil change badly." Maya's heart sank. "I don't have money for a mechanic right now. I'm barely making rent." She didn't know why she told this stranger her problems. Maybe because he felt easy to talk to. Maybe because she was tired of pretending everything was fine. John's expression softened. "Hey, don't worry about it right now. Let me fix this temporarily. You can figure out the rest later." "You don't have to do that," Maya said, feeling tears threatening again. "You've already done so much." "I want to," John said simply. "Besides, I've got nowhere to be today. This is actually the most interesting thing that's happened to me all week." He went back to his motorcycle and pulled out a tool kit and some heavy-duty tape. For the next hour, he worked on Maya's car. He wrapped the cracked hose, added coolant from a bottle he had in his bag, checked the belts, and even cleaned her spark plugs. Maya sat on the hood of her car, careful not to burn herself on the hot metal. She watched John work and felt grateful for this stranger's kindness. "You're really good at this," she said. "Do you work as a mechanic?" John laughed. "No, not exactly. I just like knowing how things work. Motorcycles, cars, life. It's all about understanding the parts and how they fit together." "What do you do then?" For work, I mean. John paused, choosing his words carefully. I work in the entertainment industry. But honestly, it doesn't really define who I am. Jobs are just jobs, you know? Maya nodded. I get that. I'm a waitress, but that's not who I want to be forever. I don't know what I want anymore. John stopped working and looked at her. Why not? The question was so direct, so simple, that Maya didn't know how to answer. She stared at the desert horizon. My dad died 8 months ago, she finally said. He was my best friend. He believed in me when nobody else did. He said I could be anything I wanted. But now he's gone and I feel stuck. Like I'm going nowhere. I'm sorry about your father, John said quietly. Losing someone you love is the hardest thing in the world. Something in his voice told Maya he understood. Really understood. Did you lose someone? She asked softly. John nodded. Yeah. Someone very close to me. It felt like the world ended. For a long time, I didn't know how to keep going. How did you do it? Keep going, I mean. John sat down next to her on the hood. They both stared at the desert together. I realized that grief is love with nowhere to go, he said. The people we love don't really leave us. They become part of who we are. And they wouldn't want us to stop living. They'd want us to find joy again, even if it feels impossible. Maya wiped tears from her cheeks. I used to paint. My dad loved my paintings. He said I had a gift. But I haven't touched a paintbrush since he died. It hurts too much. Maybe that's exactly why you should paint, John said. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Turn that pain into something beautiful. Something your dad would be proud of. I wouldn't even know where to start. Start small, John said. Paint something tonight. Anything. A cup. A flower. This desert. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. What matters is that you're doing something that makes you feel alive instead of just existing. Maya looked at this stranger who seemed to understand her better than people she'd known for years. Why are you being so nice to me? She asked. You don't even know me. John smiled. Maybe that's exactly why. No history, no expectations, no judgment. Just two people talking honestly on a hot day in the desert. Sometimes that's when the best conversations happen. They talked for another hour while John finished working on the car. Maya told him about her dreams of becoming an artist. About feeling trapped in her small town. About being scared of failing and scared of trying. John listened to everything. He didn't give advice unless she asked. He didn't try to fix her problems. He just listened like what she was saying actually mattered. You know what I think? John finally said as he closed the hood of her car. I think you're braver than you realize. You're still here, still fighting, still getting up every day even though it hurts. That's not weakness. That's strength. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. Like a door opening that had been locked for months. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. John started his motorcycle and put his helmet back on. Your car should make it back to town now. Drive slow and get it fixed properly this week, okay? I will. How much do I owe you? Nothing. I have to give you something. John raised his hand to stop her. You don't owe me anything, Maya. Just promise me you'll paint something tonight. Promise me you'll start living again instead of just surviving. Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. John gave her one last smile through his helmet visor. Take care of yourself, Maya. And remember, the people who love us never really leave. They live on in the choices we make and the kindness we show to others. With that, he revved his motorcycle and drove off down the highway. Maya stood there watching until he disappeared into the shimmering heat, becoming just a black dot on the horizon, and then nothing at all. She got back in her car. The engine started on the first try. Maya drove slowly back to town, thinking about everything John had said. She felt different somehow. Lighter, like someone had lifted a heavy weight off her shoulders. That evening, after her shift at the diner ended, Maya stopped at the dollar store. She bought the cheapest set of paints they had, 3 brushes, and a small canvas. Total cost, $12. Money she couldn't really afford to spend. But she'd made a promise to a stranger who'd shown her more kindness in one afternoon than most people showed in a lifetime. At home in her tiny apartment, Maya set up the canvas on her kitchen table. She stared at the blank white surface for a long time, feeling afraid. What if she'd lost her talent? What if the paintings were terrible? What if her dad had been wrong about her? Then she heard John's voice in her head. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. What matters is that you're doing something that makes you feel alive. Maya dipped her brush in paint and started. She painted the desert sunset she'd seen that day. Orange and red and purple bleeding together. A black motorcycle on an empty road. A stranger who stopped to help when he didn't have to. The painting was messy and far from perfect. But it felt good. It felt like living. She cried while she painted. Tears for her father. Tears for all the lost time. Tears of relief that maybe, just maybe, she could feel something other than sadness again. Over the next few weeks, Maya kept her promise. She painted every night after work. Small things at first. Her coffee cup. The view from her window. The old jukebox at the diner. Each painting felt like taking a breath after being underwater too long. She also got her car fixed properly. She picked up extra shifts, skipped meals, did whatever it took. The mechanic charged her $400. It hurt to spend that much money, but she remembered John's words about taking care of things before they broke completely. Months passed. Then a year. Then 2 years. Then 3. Maya's life slowly changed. She started selling her paintings at a local art market on weekends. Not for much money, but enough to matter. She rented a tiny studio space. She taught free art classes to kids at the community center on Thursday nights. She never forgot the stranger on the motorcycle, but the memory became softer over time. Like a smooth stone she kept in her pocket, touching it occasionally but not every day. 3 years and 2 months after that day in the desert, Maya took a bus to Phoenix for an art supply shopping trip. The stores in Kingman didn't have the quality paints she needed for a commission she'd gotten. She was walking down the street, bags of art supplies in her hands, when she passed a movie theater. Something made her stop and look at the poster in the display case. The poster showed a man in a black suit holding a gun. His face was serious, intense, dangerous. The title across the top said John Wick, Chapter 3 Parabellum, in bold white letters. Maya's bags dropped from her hands. Paint tubes rolled across the sidewalk. She knew that face. Older in the poster, yes. More serious. But those eyes. Those kind brown eyes that had looked at her with such understanding in the desert. The name at the bottom of the poster read, Keanu Reeves. No, Maya whispered. No way. Her hands shaking, she pulled out her phone. She typed with trembling fingers, Keanu Reeves motorcycle. Hundreds of results flooded her screen. Photos of him on motorcycles. Articles about his custom motorcycle company. Videos of him riding through Los Angeles. Stories about his love of bikes that went back decades. She clicked on another search, Keanu Reeves kindness stories. More results than she could count. Stories about him giving up his seat on the subway. About him taking pay cuts so other actors could get hired. About him buying gifts for entire film crews. About him donating millions to children's hospitals and cancer research after his sister got sick. Maya sat down right there on the sidewalk, her back against the theater wall, and read story after story. The time he bought ice cream for a fan and talked with her for 20 minutes. The time his flight made an emergency landing and he arranged transportation for all the passengers. The time he spent his birthday giving away gifts instead of receiving them. The time he ate lunch alone with a homeless man and treated him like a friend. One article was titled, Why Keanu Reeves is the Nicest Guy in Hollywood. Another said, Keanu Reeves, the actor who never forgot how to be human. Maya remembered their conversation differently now. I work in the entertainment industry, he'd said. The understatement of the century. He was one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But he never acted like it. He never mentioned his fame. He just fixed her car and talked to her like she mattered. Like her dreams and pain and hopes were important. She thought about how he could have driven right past her that day. He was probably taking a private ride to escape the pressure of being famous. A rare moment of freedom where nobody recognized him. But he stopped. He spent hours in the desert heat helping a waitress he'd never see again. Not for publicity or recognition. Not because cameras were watching. Just because it was the right thing to do. Maya wiped tears from her face. People walking past gave her strange looks, but she didn't care. She bought a ticket to the movie even though it had already started. She sat in the dark theater watching Keanu Reeves fight and shoot and ride motorcycles through the streets of New York. But all she could see was John. The man who sat on her car hood and talked about grief and loss and living instead of just existing. The man who told her she was braver than she knew. After the movie ended, Maya sat in the empty theater until an usher came to ask if she was okay. Yeah, she said, smiling through tears. I'm okay. I just realized something important. She gathered her spilled art supplies from the sidewalk and walked to a coffee shop. She sat by the window and wrote in her journal, something she'd started doing after that day in the desert. She wrote about how kindness doesn't require recognition, about how the biggest stars shine brightest when nobody's watching, about how one conversation with a stranger changed the entire direction of her life. She thought about trying to contact Keanu Reeves, to thank him, to tell him what his kindness meant. She found his talent agency's contact information online. But then she stopped. The gift wasn't in getting credit or closure. The gift was in the moment itself, in the purity of one human helping another without any expectation of return. If she contacted him, it would change the memory. It would become a story about a celebrity doing a good deed. But that wasn't what happened. What happened was a person saw another person in trouble and decided to help. That was more beautiful than any Hollywood story. So Maya made a different choice. She decided to pass the kindness forward instead of trying to give it back. She started volunteering more at the community center. She taught art to kids who couldn't afford lessons. She stopped to help people with car trouble. She listened when people needed to talk. She painted a new piece, a motorcycle on an empty desert highway under a burning sun. She titled it, "The Day Everything Changed," and hung it in her studio. It was never for sale. When people asked about it, she'd tell them, "A stranger stopped to help me when I was broken down in every way possible. He didn't know me. He didn't want anything. He just helped because that's what good people do." She never told anyone it was Keanu Reeves. That wasn't the point. 2 more years passed. Maya opened her own small gallery in Sedona. Her paintings sold well enough that she could quit waitressing. She hired other local artists to show their work too. She never saw Keanu Reeves again, except on movie screens. But she thought about him sometimes, especially when she faced hard choices about kindness versus convenience. One day, a teenager came into her gallery. The girl looked lost and sad. Maya recognized that look. She'd worn it herself once. "Can I help you?" Maya asked gently. "I don't have money to buy anything," the girl said. "I just wanted to look at something beautiful. My mom died last month and everything feels ugly now." Maya's heart broke and healed at the same time. She walked over to the girl and put a hand on her shoulder. "Come with me," Maya said. "Let me show you how to paint. No charge. Just you and me and some colors." They spent 3 hours painting together. The girl cried. Maya cried. They talked about loss and pain and how to keep living when it feels impossible. When the girl left, she hugged Maya tight. "Thank you," she whispered. "You made me feel like maybe I can get through this." Maya watched her walk away and smiled. She heard John's voice from that day in the desert. The people we love never really leave us. They live on in the choices we make and the kindness we show to others. That night, Maya added a new painting to her collection. A young girl holding a paintbrush, color spreading across a canvas like hope spreading across darkness. She titled it, "Passing It Forward," because that's what kindness is supposed to do. It's not meant to be returned to the giver. It's meant to flow forward like water, touching everyone it reaches, creating ripples that spread farther than we can see. Maya never forgot the stranger who stopped on a desert highway. But more importantly, she never forgot the lesson he taught her. That we save each other through small acts of kindness that cost us nothing but mean everything. She lived the rest of her life trying to be someone's John. Someone's stranger who stopped when they could have kept driving. Someone who listened when it was easier to ignore. Someone who helped simply because it was right. And somewhere out there, Keanu Reeves continued riding his motorcycle, probably still stopping to help strangers, still being kind when nobody was watching, still being exactly who he was that day in the Arizona desert. 2 strangers. 1 afternoon. 1 act of kindness. Sometimes that's all it takes to change a life forever. Remember, be kind to everyone you meet. You never know whose life you might change. The stranger you help today might remember your kindness for the rest of their life. And that matters more than fame, more than recognition, more than anything else in this world.